All right, all right. Welcome to another episode of The Blueprint, hosted by Ethereal Collection. We have a very, very special guest in the building today, Simone Love. Awesome woman. She is an author. She is a recording artist, and she runs a very, very important foundation. But I'm going to let you tell our listeners about Simone Love. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you, Mr. Lewis, for having me on. Well, my name is Simone Love, and that name actually, for those who may wonder, is my original name from my father. His last name was Love. He passed away about 15 years ago, but I always said that when I had the opportunity, I would take on his name, and this is appropriate. So my first endeavor is because my son was sentenced to life plus 527 years. I started this pathway through that situation. It's kind of why I'm here doing everything that I do as far as the foundation, which is considered the Harris Foundation. Is the unjustified sentencing of Rashee Harris that was created in 2014. We have a website, which is www.lifeplus527years.com, which its primary mission is to abolish the three-strike law in which my son was sentenced under. Most people wonder how many people did that boy kill when you hear a sentence of that magnitude. Yeah. But he did not kill anyone, and he was sentenced under the three-strike law, which pretty much states that if you commit 3 crimes, you could be going to jail for the rest of your natural life. We find this to be unreasonable. It's that of as if you're getting double jeopardy. Because if I did my time for my first crime, which is, say, the strike 1, which was his, which was possession of a firearm. Okay. Not even in the commitment of any felony. He was actually in a car with a bunch of other people. Police pulled him over. Everybody ran, and he got caught with a firearm, and that's his strike 1. So he did his time. He got 18 months. Okay. Yeah, he got 18 months for that. So now we're looking at, when you get to your 3rd strike, you're still punishing me for something I already did my time for.
Hold on. I hate to interrupt you because this is a very compelling story. And so, wait a second. So I've done a crime. I've served my time for said crime. Judges hit gavel. This is what you got. You got 18 months. All right. So this gets piggyback, and I'm sure this happens in other states as well. But this gets piggyback. You served the time for this crime. You served your punishment as the state has decided. Now, this gets tagged on to another offense. What happened to, hey, I served my time for this. This shouldn't really count anymore. I've made another mistake, maybe bad judgment, whatever. Why are you piggybacking this to this?
Exactly. So that's what one of our problems is with the whole law in itself, because like you just said, I've already did my time. So 6 years down the road, I commit another crime. You are now holding me accountable for that other crime and sentencing me based on what I did 6 years ago in conjunction with what I did currently. And although, you know, the justice system, their plan is to try to deter crime, but since this enactment, it has done nothing but increase the statistics as far as crimes are being concerned, because most people who commit crime don't expect to be caught.
Right.
So you enhancing this 3-strike law is nothing but contributing more to mass incarceration, which is a huge problem in the systems here in the United States in itself. So this is our foundation. We also focus on mentoring the youth and using it as a deterrence to say, hey, you know, my main thing is I don't want you to end up next to my son in a jail cell. And if you keep going down the path that you're going on right now, this is where they're going to put you, because that prison cell is not a revolving door. It's one way in, and they don't want you to come out because, again, it is a billion-dollar industry where someone is profiting from it, including the phone companies who take the phone calls, the commissary department, and the prison system in itself. So it has become nothing but a billion-dollar industry.
You see me getting upset because, you know, these laws, first off, I mean, this is just, I grew up in the Giuliani era in New York City, and one of the things that they notice is that you're not helping decrease crime by doing this. What you're doing is, in the case of New York, was you made the crimes more violent, because nobody at the end of the day really wants to go to jail. Nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to commit a crime and I'm going to go to jail. So you had robberies that turned into something completely different, because, again, it's a sad way to think of it, but if you have people not even putting your son into this thing, but you have people that are career criminals. This is what they do. It doesn't make it right, but this is what they do. And if you tell them, in the case of this 3-strike law, that you're going to jail for the rest of your life, sadly enough, they're going to decide like the Old West. I'm not leaving any witnesses. You know, and it kind of hurts the whole system on a whole.
Exactly.
And another thing that I want to add, and I'm going to let you speak on this, is the system is kind of unbalanced. You know, when it comes to our black and brown people, it is very, very unbalanced. And I am quite sure if we dug through the statistics, that this 3-strike law doesn't hold for everyone. You know, it is something that is used to keep our young black and brown men in jail. They're no longer competition. You know, they're no longer competition in the job market. They're no longer competition for housing. They're no longer competition for food. They're away.
And be in profit.
Yes. You know, multi-billion-dollar industries. People, I was a chef for a couple of summers, and people don't realize that, you know, Cisco, that's how they make their money. They supply the prison food system, you know, and they supply restaurants, but the bulk of their business actually comes from the prison food system. It's basically slave labor. They're not getting paid fair wages for the work that they do, whether it's making license plates or whatever, you know. So it's basically slavery, common day slavery.
Exactly. You can work there all day, every day, and where my son is housed at. Now, some prisons pay a little bit more, but he gets paid $9 a month. $9 a month, and he's working lunch, dinner, and breakfast. Serving trays. Now, if you had a prison guard, for example, do that job, because let's just say the inmates went on strike and said, we're not doing this anymore, which they would be punished for. You are now having to pay someone at least $20 an hour to do that same job. So is it that hard to at least give them minimum wage? So that's another, you know, problem that we're facing here. You know, when you're dealing with inmates and you're dealing with the system, you kind of have to touch on it all, because when you're having conversation with the conditions, it's hard to ignore it. So, you know, we have to come forth with a plan to try to tackle things as they come along, but at the same time, not forgetting our main focus, which is to abolish the 3-strike law. Not only, you know, and I understand completely what you're saying, but, you know, for centuries, the prison system has not worked. Prison is based on reform, allowing people to have time to ponder on what they did wrong against society. But it's become this, like you said, a business. It's become where it's more beneficial for the big companies to have people stay in prison than it is to reform them. You know, back in, I believe it was the turn of the 19th century, you know,
with people with psychiatric problems, you know, they said, hey, we're not doing the right thing. We're not helping these people. So they reformed that system. It still needs a lot of work, but they went out there and reformed the system. However, I think after the 1970s, they said, hey, listen, there's too much money to be made here. Mm-hmm. Why reform it? Let them go out there and do what they're going to do and just make these laws so that it just stacks everything up. Again, your 3-strike law that takes place in your state. How many other states are you aware of? How many other states have similar laws?
Almost all of them. A lot of them have revised them, including Delaware back in 2017, where they had removed the violent crime. I'm sorry, a non-violent crime as being part of the equation.
Okay.
So it has been some adjustments. However, we're still looking at a young man on a 3-strike law who's in there for allegedly robbing someone for $50. You know, this gentleman had got 25 years. I'm sorry, he got 50 years over $50. He's scheduled to be in there until the age of 80.
Oh my God.
And he's now 50 some odd years old. So
how does this help society on a whole? How does this help our community? You're destroying families. I mean, you can put things in place to help. First of all, education in our community, make our school systems better, I believe. You know, because an educated mind can go out there and actually be useful and helpful to the community as a whole. You know, make it easier for our young Black men and women to go to school. You know, stop with the whole job segregation thing. You know, I know people personally that have gone to college and they cannot get a job that is based on their degree, and they have to take a job that really doesn't even, I would walk away from just to feed their families. You know, these are some of the systematic changes that need to happen in America, you know, to make it fair for everyone.
Exactly.
We just got off of Independence Day.
Exactly.
What you're saying is we're not independent. Exactly. We're kind of tethered to the jail system.
That's it. That's it. Especially when you, like you said, you mentioned, and that's a good point, that it was created to provide rehabilitation. And first of all, when you're spending the rest of your life in jail, I'm not sure how you're going to be rehabilitated to become a productive citizen in our great United States. Because I just had a conversation, as a matter of fact, with the inmate this morning who suffers from addiction. And he was tested by the prison system and found drugs in his system. But their punishment to him is to take away his privileges, put him back in an area where he's more isolated, rather than getting him rehabilitation. And it's like, I don't understand this. They didn't even care where he got it from. So that's the
first thing that comes to mind. Somebody should have been fired if it got into it's a closed system. So no matter how it got in, there was someone who had the responsibility, their job, to make sure that they did not get in. I don't care how slick and wily people are. That is your job. So the person that actually lets people in should have been reprimanded or possibly lost their job, or as they do with police, lost vacation days or whatever.
Right. No, that's not even their concern. They're not even concerned about him having an addiction. They're not concerned about any type of reprimand for who got the drugs to him in the first place. And even like a situation that happened during COVID, when visitors weren't allowed into the prisons. We had a
whole bunch of different questions.
Yeah, a gentleman who actually died of an overdose in his cell. And they just kind of swept that whole thing under the rug as to who's responsible here. Is this just another life? But when, you know, when there was another situation where a guard lost his life, it was all over the media. But now we're looking at a man who loses his life and you're his responsibility. You have taken him into your prison system and made him your responsibility. He dies on your watch. But let's just throw everything under the rug. Crazy. Because we don't want to be accountable for that. That was his problem.
That is great. You know, I want to go straight through this interview, but when we come back, I want you, I mean, you're a wonderful host of Simone Love Presents the Hour, and you talk about many of these subjects. I have actually learned things about, you know, the prison system and the need for reform, as well as the judicial system, the need for reform. Like I said, we just came off of Independence Day, and I didn't even mention it on my timeline because I'm like, I really don't care. At the end of the day, I don't care, you know, because I'm not independent. We worry about everything else except the plight that our Black and brown men and women go through with the justice system. And unless a change is made, I think a lot of people forget that this country was built on our backs. Right. You know, if we just decided that, hey, listen, if we did like Benjamin Franklin and George Washington did, and say, hey, nothing moves unless we get proper representation, I wonder where this country would be at.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I wonder. Because so let's take a quick break. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, please.
I was just going to say, because in 1776, it didn't look like we were free to me.
No, hell no.
I don't know what we're celebrating.
Yeah,
the grill is in the backyard not being touched by me because I can't entertain it.
That's right. That's right. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to jump back in, and we're going to talk about how your foundation, you know, through the many vehicles that you have, your songs, your author, you do a show right here on Red Media Radio, Simone Love Presents the Hour. We're going to talk about, you know, some of the things where you're actually making a change. All right? How's that sound?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Let's go.
Handcuffs on my wrist as I head up to the courtroom. Judge and the jury looking at me like a cartoon. Jury found me guilty, now the prosecutor laughing. Judge gave me life, 527, is this happening?
I'm not caught up in hypocrisy. Inmates are more than a number. They're family. Orange jumpsuit. The orange jumpsuit, jumpsuit, jumpsuit. The orange jumpsuit. 10 years, 20 years, life, there's more. Phone calls, visits may seem like a chore. Sisters, brothers, cousins, or friends. Be vigilant, forgive, and we all can win.
Okay, we are back at the Blueprint, sponsored by Thera Collection. We're talking, lots of knowledge has been shared. I might have to put this in rotate constantly. What I want to talk about, Simone, is how you're throwing your hat in the ring, how you're making change, or how you're helping others make a change.
Well, through my arena and through us, our main goal, like I said, is always to focus on that 3-strike law because of the injustice that it does to most of our Black and brown men. I've kind of gotten into being more of an advocate for others. For example, we're working with one gentleman right now, and if you listen to my show for season 1, you may have heard about a gentleman who's accused of raping his wife, but the DNA was that of someone else's. So right now, because I just feel, you know, I wholeheartedly, after listening to all of his testimony and reading his transcript and hearing about his case, I wholeheartedly know that this gentleman is not guilty. Right. Again, 2 days after he was arrested, his wife took his car, his boat, and his house. Now, I'm not going to say if I can't talk on being raped before, but if I'm traumatized, I don't know if that's going to be one of the things I'm worried about doing.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the DNA wasn't his. And we just had a gentleman who did 15 years. His name is, you may have heard about him, Mark Purnell, was innocent. And this gentleman was arrested at the age of 16 for a crime he didn't commit. And he was considered innocent 15, 16 years later. So it's, how do we get here? How do we get to this point? And there's so many men, and I'm not going to say everybody's innocent, but everybody doesn't need to be there for 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years plus for the rest of their lives. I mean, unfortunately, people are being shot and killed every day. And when we have taken 15 or 16 years away from a man's life, how do you start all over again? When I speak to this gentleman, honestly, I feel like he's still in that 16-year-old era. Like, some people revolve, their minds mature, but when I talk to this gentleman, I'm not seeing that. And it's hurting my heart. So when I'm looking at a gentleman like the one I told you that is accused of the situation with his wife, it just has become my goal and motivation to make sure we're not looking at him 15 years later still trying to fight this system. So that has become, you should see my table in my bedroom. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna get through this, but I'm lucky to have a team around me who, they're not lawyers, but they're pretty, keen on giving you a direction to go to, because unfortunately a lot of these gentlemen are now at the point where they're pro se, or they're representing themselves because the court-appointed attorney has now been exhausted. Once you get into a certain stage, you're on your own. Right. And there's so many that are just caught without anywhere to go. Right. So, for example, for this gentleman, this weekend, we're out trying to find a key witness for him because his cellmate, unfortunately, took all the information in, called the prosecutor, and stated that he hired him to kill his wife. So the fingerprints on a piece of paper that he claims that my person that we support, his fingerprints wasn't on a piece of paper that was supposedly a sketch of the house that this gentleman he hired to kill that he made of. So the second person's fingerprints that they went and questioned and said, hey, you recognize this handwriting? Oh yeah, I recognize his handwriting. It's the snitch guy's handwriting. I know it's his handwriting because he helped me file some court papers when I was filing a motion. So this evidence during his whole trial was not even brought forth. They never brought this gentleman in as a witness. So this gentleman now, 7 years later, maybe 6 years now, is just finding out this whole report from the police detective. So now we're trying to figure out, first of all, why didn't his defense attorney bring him as a witness? Yeah. Of course, the prosecutor doesn't seem to want him as one. Right. But now we're dealing with trying to track this gentleman down. We actually went to his house. He was a registered sex offender. So we thought we had an address. We're like, okay, we got an address. we go to the house and it looks like it's abandoned or something. I don't know what's going on. So after we do a little bit more digging, it seems as though that he may be in a treatment center here. Wow. So although we can't just call and say, hey, is he here, because of HIPAA laws and things of that nature. But we're about to write a letter and hope that we can find him, because now that he's in a post-conviction state, filing his post-conviction 61, this is like a key thing, because now we're looking at prosecutorial misconduct. Wow. And unfortunately, is so many people that are dealing with the system being corrupt and doing things where I don't know how they even sleep at night. Knowing that they just put this man and so many others behind bars gave him 26 years over this, okay? Wow. And I'm not downing, of course we're sensitive to people who their rights are violated sexually. As a woman, I know this, but also I know that there are women who falsely accuse people
Yeah.
of things all day, every day. Okay, so we know this happens, but unfortunately, this has become another avenue that, you know, we're helping, because when they're behind bars and they're representing themselves, and this man now, nobody even deals with him except for one sister, because his kids of another marriage, you raping people, we ain't dealing with you. You know, this man is now sitting in jail pretty much with one person to support him, where he feels like I'm wearing my sister out. And I know how it is sometimes, because when I get phone calls, I need to take a little break every now and again. Yeah, you know what I mean? So, but now this has been another avenue that we have been working on, and it's quite interesting. Sometimes it's quite depressing when you have to read over these cases time and time again and see how many people are wronged in the system. And if your system is to have a fair trial for everyone, I'm finding it quite hard to see how so many people go through, and I'm, like I said, I'm no lawyer, but I can read it and see you didn't get a fair trial. Right. Irregardless of what you did, you should be, appointed a fair trial at the least. And it's just so many people that, I'm dealing with, that we're trying to stay in Delaware, but now it has moved to North Carolina, Mississippi, and New York. Right now we have gentlemen that are, another gentleman, unfortunately, been wrongly accused of.
Hopefully he's not from Queens. Everybody gets served. Everybody gets served in Queens. You appear before a judge, you're going to be served. Exactly. If you're black and brown. Well, you know what? It's a lot to deal with, and as a person that could be just spending all their time working on your son's case, you find the time. You find the empathy, you find the compassion to help others. At the same time, you continue to help your son, but you say, hey, it's not just about him. Right. It's about the whole system. How did you come to that realization? Because most people would have just said, I've got to save my son. I've got to get my son out of this situation. What made you decide that, hey, listen, if it's unfair for him, it's unfair for this person as well, and I'm going to be the person that tries to help everyone?
And that's exactly what it has come to, because I guess it kind of started when you say somehow I became the prison mom. Okay. When you have when they're in different areas of the prison, and they may give my phone number to another person to keep in touch. Like, take my mom's number, call me, let me know how you're doing. Because once they're, in different tiers, it's a break in their communication. Right. So if I get one person that calls me, it's like, hey, mom, Mom Dukes, this is what, now I'm hearing their story. And then it's like, I hear the next person's story. And none of them, I don't think, in the beginning were really looking for assistance per se, but when I hear it, I'm just like, well, what have you done about this? Have you filed your motions? Did you did you put? And I'm just learning from me learning. It's just a natural education that I'm getting from each thing that I learn. And then when I listen to my brother, I have a brother who's very keen in the legal system, and you guys will be hearing from him in season 2, right. With his experience and expertise. My first thing is, hey, I need you to talk to my brother. I need you to talk to my brother. And then all of a sudden our little kitchen table becomes piled up, with packs of papers and things of that nature. So, but I guess I feel like it's rewarding to be able to provide whatever little assistance or whatever recommendations, or giving them a avenue to go to. It's just an inner experience, that's fulfilling.
Well, that really is a great thing. I mean, that just takes us out of the whole motivation aspect. That's what usually this segment is about, is how you're bringing motivation and inspiration to others. But I think that by being an heir sometimes, because sometimes that's what some of these young men and women need. They need an heir. Someone not so much to, hey, believe me that I'm innocent, but just be compassionate of my plight.
Exactly.
Because we're not talking about a few days in the drunk tank. We're talking about years and years and years that they can't get back. And what happens is there's no recourse. I mean, if a company does you wrong, you go to court, you sue them, there's something given to you. You know, especially if that company is wrong. Johnson & Johnson just went through that. You know, there's so many lawsuits against, but for some strange reason, the government doesn't jump in and say, hey, we were wrong. We like kind of like threw this evidence under the table, and, you know, yeah, that's a fact. So, yeah, we realized that we took, like the case of that young man, 15 years of your life. You know, it's going to be hard for you to start. What they do is they let them out, put them on parole, you know, hoping that they break a rule. But the mindset is you'll be right back. Because you have nothing to work with.
So they I told you so.
Yes,
15 years, you should have been prepared to be back on the streets. You should have been able to go build a house from the ground up. I mean, what have you been doing all this time? And when you call them, a lot of them doing nothing but watching TV. I'm like, you watch TV all day.
And trading cigarettes.
They do start some programs. They have a construction program that one of my guys was in. So, and they're building a technical area. So hopefully this will, you know, contribute. Even the people who are doing life should be involved, because I've seen people go from death penalty to life to being released. So you just always have to prepare for the better. Right.
And it's people like you that give them this information, that tells them, hey, utilize the system. You're there. Make use of your time. You know, sitting in the day room isn't going to help the situation.
Don't call me to talk about nothing. I told one guy, I mean, you know, I know the guy's been there for a long time, and they hear a woman and they think you might be their little girlfriend or something. But I let them know, look, I already got somebody. And you're not calling me to talk about how you plan to get out of there. We don't need to have a conversation.
Correct.
Well, let's just get this.
Let's get this straight. Let's get this straight. And you know, you can't really blame them, because their mindset is not there completely. So it's good that you put them, hey, this is what I'm here to assist with, is to guide you to getting released.
Where are you at with your court paperwork? What are you doing? What's your next step? Because other than that, this idle talk, what you doing, and we can't do that.
No, it's good. You know, again, you know, you have to set expectations. And I think with our youth, it's very important that we set these expectations, you know, for them to always climb to. I mean, I had a couple of run-ins with the law, but I avoid police like the plague now, because I came to realize very quickly the system isn't going to work for me. There is nothing that I'm going to get out of the system. And I think if a lot of young people start to realize that, hey, listen, the streets aren't the way to go. There's nothing there. It's been the streets since the beginning of time. You know, so what you need to do is you need to focus on the next level. Many of these young men, you know, are going to have children. Are you going to bring your children into this whole jail culture, or are you going to want better for your children? You know, I mean, we go watch mob movies. You see the mob will tell their kids, I don't want you in the business. I want you to do better for yourself. You know, and this is the conversation we need to have with our youth at all stages of their life. You know, usually when they become teenagers, we kind of hands off, you know, kind of, but that's the time when you need to be like, listen, I'm telling you this for a reason. You know, and we need to go back to those communities that are like you. You speak to people that you don't even know. They're not family. They're not blood. But you're still trying to assist in the process. And we need to go back to that type of community where, hey, listen, you can speak to my mom, you can speak to my pop. You know,
right,
they're about getting you on a positive track.
Right.
You know, and far and few between are people like you. I mean, I can't wait for season 2, but you talk a lot about this on the radio, and you have inmates on. In fact, your son actually helped write one of your songs, if I'm correct.
Oh,
yeah.
Definitely.
You know, let's take a quick break and let's talk about some of those things.
Okay.
Not to take anything away from the importance, but I think that some of those things that you're doing are very important as well. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, let's go.
The Ethereal Collection.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you.
Ethereal Collection, the fashion line inspired by Red Media Radio.
All right, we are back. Again, brain buzzing with activity from all the information you've shared. How you give motivation and inspiration to, I would have to say, people that you don't even really know. That you don't really know. And most people, with the community that you deal with, most people would be hands off. I don't want to deal with that. But you've taken an extra step, and you've actually said, with this country, as I said, everybody deserves a fair shake.
Yes,
definitely. You know, everybody deserves a fair shake. That's what they tell us this country is built upon. But, you know, on a more creative note, you are a songwriter. If I'm right, 3 or 4 records.
Right now we have, let me see. We have Forgiveness.
Okay.
Baby Boy.
Baby Boy. My
Baby
favorite.
Boy Jazz, which is the first rendition of Baby Boy.
Okay.
We have The Orange Jumpsuit and Sorry. So right now we have 5 songs that are
5 songs.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Beautiful. You know what? This is what I love about what you do. You put a creative spin on it because it's going to reach our youth. You know, so listening to your son on his part, you can tell it's a phone call, and that might stop and make somebody think before they do something that can land them in that situation.
Right.
You know, and where do you find the freaking time?
Well, it kind of all started because we were prior to the pandemic creating a docudrama. Mm-hmm. It got a little put on under the, pushed back a little bit because of when the pandemic happened. And when we were talking about music, originally we were discussing using Boys to Men and Shy and songs that me and my son sing at our visits together, like incorporating that to make it real. But then, of course, when we learned about the copyright laws, when I got educated on it, that all became a thing of the past. And I was sitting in on the side of my bed, because I'm like, oh man, what we gonna do now? Because you gotta have music, And I said, wait a minute. I write my own music. We'll do our own music. When me and my brother, we had a album out. I was on his album, put it like that. This was years ago, like in the 1990s. But
give him a shout out. Come on now.
Yeah. Well, my brother, he passed away.
Oh, sorry for you, Lord.
No, that's okay. But he passed away. But he was very creative and always encouraged me. He was like, you can sing. He was like, just when you singing a song, just make it your own. He always was pushing me. He was creative. He was writing plays and movies. Was flown out to Chicago to meet with people to put his stuff out. And unfortunately, like I said, he passed away. But I always had that creativity in me. It was just, I was doing other things and wasn't putting my time into it. I figure I'm older now or whatever. I'm like, you never too old. So that's when I came up with the first song, Baby Boy.
Okay.
I was like, wait a minute. And I was like, baby boy. I actually started singing that because that's what I call my son. You know, like, hey, baby boy, because, you know, when we used to watch Tyrese's show, he thought he was baby boy. So that we came up with the first song. So the second one was the forgiveness. And I was like, you have to answer me now.
Okay.
That's when he came up with his lyrics, and we did the forgiveness. And thank God to my music producer, Eli, who is just
a great job.
Wonderful job. He just, when we did that forgiveness, it was just like, oh my gosh, I was in tears. You know, just listen to my song because everything is real. You know, these are real words, real emotions.
You can feel it in the song.
Yeah. And then my daughter actually was the one to say, y'all should make a song called The Orange Jumpsuit.
I love the video to that, but go ahead.
So I'm sitting in the bed one night and I'm like, you know what, that's a good idea. Because that's another thing that our youth need to be aware of is if, you know, what the conditions are.
Right.
And so I'm sitting in bed thinking, the orange jumpsuit. And she's like, Mom, it's like 2 a.m. She's like, Mom, do I hear you up there saying the orange jumpsuit? And that's how that one came to play. And then we got the Baby Boy Jazz, which is just the original version of Baby Boy. And then Sorry, which is my most recent release, which is pretty much talking, like when I talk to other mothers, we all kind of share the same issue, is we feel like somehow we're responsible for our child's situation.
Right.
You know, although they may say to us, you had nothing to do with it. When I'm out in the streets, I have a choice. But still, that doesn't take away the sorrow and the frustration and the concern that you feel for your child.
You always feel as a mother.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's where the Sorry came out. Now, coming soon.
Okay.
And we're going to have a collab.
Wait, guys.
A collab is coming soon, and I'm just going to leave it there.
I need that jazz version to put in the rotation.
Okay.
I don't think I have that. And when we do the podcast version, if you can send me the video, I'll put them in between our break points.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think YouTube, they've done this before where they sent me letters and I'm like, dude, I'm interviewing the person to make records, so I don't think the problem is, and they usually let it play. So yeah, we'll definitely put that to bring more attention and like specifically Orange Jumpsuit. I like that. So
you like that one?
I actually want that one. But you know what? As we move forward, the book, where did that come from?
That was another spin-off from the docudrama that we're creating, because we're talking about a mother's love. Mm-hmm. You know, irregardless of what our children do, irregardless of what situation they're in, for the most part, you can depend on us to be there. You know what I mean? We're always going to be there for you. A gentleman once said to me, I wonder if you are taking this situation harder than your son is. And, you know, I always wonder if he's right, but I never had that conversation with my son because I think it's like an unspoken emotion. And I don't think he wants to upset me, and he don't want to upset me. Because one time, I was sitting there saying, one day I just broke down and was like, I think maybe he cried in front of me one time and I cried in front of him one time. But for the most part, we try to keep it together for each other, keep each other calm, not be pointing fingers because the damage is done. Right. All we got to do is worry about the solution. Can't go back, can't go backwards and fix it. Can't take back the hand of time. So let's worry about how we're going to fix this. But a mother's love came from that. It was like, okay, a mother's love is just that, showing young children, and on the cover of the book, it depicts me and my daughter, and I do have a daughter who's 27. She's actually ex-military. And my son, just, explaining to them, no matter if you don't like the food that you're eating, I'm serving it to you for a reason, to make you strong. You know, you don't have to go to bed when I say it's time to go to bed. I'm telling you that for a reason. So when you get up, you can have your strength. No matter what you're going through, whether you're being bullied in school, whether you're, you know, if you think the world is against you, we're always there for you. And that's pretty much what it's,
you're about to bring tears to my eyes. So just stop. Because I no, seriously, I'm not. And you've actually had episodes talking about bullying and things of that nature. So it's not like you're just focused on your foundation. I don't know where you find the energy or the strength to pull yourself all over the place and still be creative and still, you know, have meaningful conversation on air. I don't know. But I appreciate you for that. I definitely appreciate you. And I'm sure our listeners appreciate you for that, because there's not that many people like that would have paperwork from people they don't even know all over their table, and they're spending hours just going through paperwork saying, aha, this, or hey, this doesn't seem right. One thing, part of the blueprint is always about motivation, inspiration. You've given a lot of that, so you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. But what would you tell our youth as far as motivation, inspiration, based on your story, your life, your experience?
A lot of what I like to, the message that I like to give to the youth is, and even before they're on that wrong path, or they're getting in trouble, or whatever it is that they're doing, your future, the company that you keep will predict your future. And if you get that inclination that somebody you're hanging around with, because that's normally how their pathway is chosen, because they want to keep hanging around that certain person that just doesn't want to do the right thing. The company that you keep will definitely predict your future. And my son, for example, he wasn't no street smart kind of guy. I mean, I'm not saying that we were in the worst of neighborhoods, but we were in the better of the neighborhoods. And he still chose to go chase the nonsense. And he'll admit it too. I'm not no street person. He can't even really fight. But this is where he ends up at, doing life plus 527 years. Right. So at the end of the day, if you think you have friends, or you feel like, you know, this is accomplishment to be that person that's, you know, what is it called when you're in high school? The popular person. Yeah, the popular and but at the end of the day, if you can look in the mirror and say to yourself, is this going to be beneficial to me or beneficial to them? And that is deep right there. Yeah, and if the answer isn't you, then I don't think you need to be, you know, hanging around these specific people. And at the end of the day, guess what they're going to do? When it comes down to getting in trouble, oh no, Johnny did it.
Yeah, they're gonna throw you under the bus.
Yeah, Johnny did it. So that is, even for adults. Yeah. Making sure you surround yourself around people who have your best interests at heart. And not that you're better than the next person, or they're better than you, or their job is better, or your career is better. But if you don't have like-minded people that are striving for the same thing, sometimes it's unfortunately necessary to cut them off so that you can continue on your own path.
Yes, yes. You could not have said it better. Simone, I definitely appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy woman, and I appreciate the fact that you sat down and had this conversation with me. I hope our listeners will actually visit this foundation. It's a beautiful thing. Yes, it's based on what your son went through, but you've taken it to a whole new level. You're pulling up the skirt on a very, I hate the skirt, but you're pulling up something on an unfair and unjust system that definitely needs to change. And I salute you for your fight, for your gumption to go out there and help others. Because most people have been like, listen, I gotta get some rest. I gotta go get something to eat. I gotta go see a movie. I gotta go get a drink. But you stick to it. You stick to it. And if more people did that, and I'm gonna say this, if more people did that, even for one person that is outside of their circle, the world would be forced to look at the situation and say, yeah, they're right, we need to make a change.
Yes, definitely.
So
I just want to thank you for having me on today and giving me that platform to talk about these sensitive subjects and to be upfront and honest and uncensored while we do it.
You speak the truth. I always want you to speak the truth.
I appreciate it.
I don't care who don't like it. It's my radio station. I don't care who don't like it. I want the truth. I need our people to hear the truth. We've been sugarcoating this stuff because for many of us, it doesn't affect us.
Right.
For many of us, it doesn't affect us, so we stay hands off. We know it's wrong. We know it's wrong. But since it's not affecting us immediately, we say, hey, I'm just not going to pay attention. But here's the deal. The justice system is so unjust that there's a good chance that it will affect you. And what happens is you're going to want everybody to fight the good fight for you when you ignored everybody else.
Exactly.
That's all I'm going to say.
Exactly.
That's all I'm going to say.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much. We're probably going to spend the rest of the show just thanking each other. I definitely appreciate you. Hopefully we'll be able, when season 2 comes up, you'll let us all know about, the foundation, the people that you help, the people that you are helping, and how other people can actually chip in and help out with the foundation. Whether it be time, maybe it's funding, whatever. It's a worthy cause. It's something that people should really look at and see where they can throw their hat in the ring. Would you agree?
Definitely. Yes, definitely. We're working hard to bring a season 2 that is a different,
because I listen to the show. I listen to the show. Don't tell me too much. I want.
I'm not. But definitely a little different. We're working hard on it right now. Trying to find a creative avenue to bring it. But definitely every day, and I'll just give you that little hint. We're getting
you know what? I want to thank you again. Remember, please send those videos. Please, one more time, the website.
www.lifeplus527years.com. And those are the numbers 527.
Okay. Guys, make sure you check that out. Simone, once again, thank you so much for being on the Blueprint. It's about inspiration and motivation. I think you've given people like their monthly dose of inspiration and motivation.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
You and Latif keep doing what you're doing, making things happen and being creative and putting it out there. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, guys. See you next week on the Blueprint. Hey, you already know. Love you guys.